now. Okay. My name's Erwin-Ploog, and I'm GSC's librarian. I'm the college librarian and assistant dean for library services. What I like to do with Molly's class in particular is to give you a broad overview of library services and then how to use the GSC Discovery Service. We're kind of unique in that we're one of the few academic libraries in the country that's totally digital. The good news about that is that we're never closed. You can do your research in the middle of the night if you want. The challenge is always that in more traditional academic libraries, there's a group of librarians that can help you as you walk in the door. And we don't exactly have that. We have something that I think most of the time you'll find will meet your needs. So that's really the first thing that I want to go over is how to contact me. When classes are in session, like right now we just started spring term, you can email me. This is my cell phone number, and students call me all the time. You can text me. And occasionally, you know, I'm in Lyme, New Hampshire, but I'm in Concord, and the regional offices fairly frequently. I can meet you if you have a research assignment and you're really struggling with it. Perhaps not for this class, but as you progress in your GSC career, there might be more difficult research assignments that you have to do, and just sitting with someone for a short period of time can be very beneficial. So the whole idea is that we have these expanded services primarily because we don't have a physical library. And what we don't want to do is have you get an assignment that requires library research and you're frustrated because A, you can't find anybody to help you, and B, you don't have a clue as to how to use our digital library. I usually like to ask at this point, how many of you have already used the library? Anybody? And I'll unmute you all now.
I have.
Okay.
I have as well.
I have not.
You've not. Okay, so it's a little mix. So I'll go ahead. I'm getting an echo from someone, so I'm going to mute you all again. Okay. So I'd like to start out by talking a little bit about what the library can do for you. Because it's not always apparent to students. And if you go into student services, and right now I'll mention that the URL to the library is library.granite.edu. And it's all over the place. It's in Moodle. It is under the Granite page for students. So just keep that in mind. I also have a handout of a lot of this information that I usually give to Molly after the class, and she can distribute it to you. Okay, so student services. I can generally help you with research assignments that require library resources. And oftentimes your instructor will say, I want you to use the GSC library. An example is you might have an assignment that you haven't taken either a writing process or critical inquiry yet, where they want you to find peer-reviewed articles. I can help you do that. Developing an effective search strategy. I'm going to give you some techniques tonight, but to me, just in response to the students who write to me and call me, that is usually a big challenge. for students, that to begin to think about the vocabulary of a profession or how to put together an effective search strategy. Citing sources. Increasingly, this has become a big issue at GSC, and I can certainly help you with that. I can't really look at your whole references page or works cited page, but if you have one or two citations you want me to look at or want some help in something strange, I can certainly help you. Capstone, you're a little early to begin thinking about your capstone project, but when you get there, I can help you begin with your research. One of the things that's kind of unique about our library too is that we have this agreement with all the academic libraries in New Hampshire, except for Dartmouth, that allows you with a GSC ID card to go into any one of them and check out any of the resources that a student at that college or university can check out. So, you know, if you live in the Manchester area, you could go to UNH Manchester, you could go to St. Anselm, you could go to Southern New Hampshire University and check resources out. And one of the things that I will do for you is if you find something that you really want for a paper or for research that you're working on, and we don't have it, I can tell you where it's located. Unfortunately, you have to go there to get the resource or sit at a terminal in that other institution's library. But half the battle is finding out where these resources are. So just keep that in mind, and I hope you all have GSC ID cards. So let's go back to the home page. That's sort of the preliminary stuff that I like to talk to you about. What you're probably most interested in, though, is the GSC Discovery Service, which is the name of our digital library. And to get into it, you have to have a user ID and password. But we've made it as simple as we can make it. It's Granite SC, and the password is actually Granite SC also. And then you click on Login. This is what's known as the basic search page. And there's just a couple things I want to highlight for you. Under search options, you come down to limit your results. You'll see that full text is checked. I've made that the default. You could turn it off if you wanted to, but I would recommend you leave it on. It means that everything that you search is going to have a full text, which means you can read the full article, not just the abstract of the article. The other piece that I wanted to mention is peer-reviewed, and we'll talk about that later, but I'm not going to click that now. So let's come up to this basic search. And if at any point you have any questions or you want me to slow down, or I don't think you'll want me to speed up, but just let me know, okay? This is a chevron. And if you pull this down, you've got 3 different kinds of basic search: keyword, title, and author. Title search can be a bit tricky. And the reason is you have to have the title exactly correct, or you're going to get the response back, we don't have the article or the ebook. And I run into this a fair amount. You know, either it's a typing error on your syllabus, or maybe you've typed it in incorrectly, whatever. But eventually we find the title if it's in there. But just keep that in mind. Author search can be very flexible. You can do first name, last name, first name, just last name. So that can be a fairly good one. And I'll tell you a little bit about how I use it in research and how I particularly work with upper level students in using the author search. Keyword is a search that we all gravitate towards, and primarily because we all use Google, and Google works on keywords. I think the difference between the Google keyword and the discovery service is you have to be a bit more precise with keywords in the discovery service, or you'll get a million hits back. And we'll do a little bit of searching just to show you what I mean. And we can do a search on social media. Nice general search. So you put it in keyword, you say search. And the first thing I want to show you is the research starter, because that can be very helpful to you. There are, at this point, over 1 million of these research starters in the system. They're written by librarians and scholars and researchers, and what they are is really like Wikipedia for research. So if you open one up, what you're going to get is this overview article about your topic. It's going to give you vocabulary, concepts. This one has diagrams in it, and they always have at the end a bibliography of other articles you can look at. So if you're kind of thinking about research and you aren't sure where to start and you don't really feel like you know much about your topic, if you do a search and you wind up with a research starter, check it out, because it can be very helpful to you in sort of guiding your thinking about your topic. Okay, so when you do a search and you don't have any of the limiters along the left navigation on, you get a mix of ebooks, articles, and for something like social media, we got 6,523,000 hits. Obviously, you know, we haven't really refined our topic very well, but just give me an opportunity to show you a couple different things along the left navigation. First one is, here's where you can turn peer review on. If you turn peer review on, all the articles that have gone through the peer review process are going to be shown. And one of the things I like to ask is if you know what peer review is. So let me unmute you all.
Oh, 127. Yeah, but where's it? Oh, so it goes to.
How many of you feel like you know, have a pretty good handle on peer review?
I have no idea what that is.
Okay. Just if one person says they have no idea, it kind of gives me the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about it, because it is a fairly significant concept. And I'm getting that echo again. Let me see. I'm going to have to mute you guys again. There we go. Okay. Say I'm a researcher or a scholar, and you know, I'm doing, particularly in the sciences, I'm doing my experiments, I'm getting results. I want to get that written up for a journal to publish it as an article. And so I send it to the best journal I think I can get it published in. And for scientists, often that's Nature. If any of you have ever looked at the journal Nature, very prestigious journal. So I send my article off to Nature. Nature wants to protect its reputation. It does not want to publish articles that are bad science or bad experiments. So they take my article, which is in manuscript form at this point, and they send it to a group of my peers, people I don't know, but are other scientists or other researchers. They read through my article. They're experts in the field. They fill out some documentation about the article and send it back to the publisher. That documentation might say, publish this article, it's wonderful. That hardly ever happens. Likewise, it's very rare for them to come back and say, this is really garbage, don't publish it. It's usually somewhere in the middle, that they want to see the writer of the article, me, the researcher, make some changes. So it comes back to me. I might complain a whole lot, but if I want to get my article published, I make the changes. I send it back to the publisher, and with any luck, it gets published. This whole process takes almost a year from the time I submit my article to the time it gets published. And in certain areas, and I'll give you an example, like cancer research, a year is a tremendous amount of time. At the same time, it's a safeguard against publishing bad information. So it's really a check and balance, and that's all that peer review is. It's also not perfect. There have been things that have slipped through, and that's when there are big problems, because the journal, once something is proven to be either it was bad science or the research was changed to get the results the researchers wanted, all the bad things that one can do when one is researching, the journal has to redact the article, pull it back from publication. They have to print a disclaimer. The researcher is embarrassed. Luckily, embarrassment might be the best situation. In some cases, they're fired. So, it's a big deal in that respect. So that's what peer review is. And I know that you'll hear this at some point during your career at GSC when a faculty member will say to you, here's your assignment, you have to use the GSC library, and you have to only use peer-reviewed articles. So that's the little box that you click. The second one that's very useful is the date slider. So you can pull that over, and so I'll start at 2009. If you think about it, if you were researching something like social media, you want pretty current stuff. You don't want stuff from 1950, probably. So the date slider can be very, very useful. And when your faculty member says to you, I want you to use the GSC library, peer-reviewed articles, and they can only be 5 years old, which, is in some areas is a long time, you can use the date slider to make that happen. You see what's happened to our 6 million? We're down to only 1,240,000. Still bad, but we're eliminating them. The other two limiters that I use are language. Most of us are only looking for English language articles. That's where you would cull out any foreign language articles. And then geography. And geography is kind of a tricky one. If you were studying social media and you only wanted it in reference to social media in the United States, you could click on United States. If you were interested in how the whole world uses social media, you wouldn't just limit it to the United States. So we're down to 39,000. That is probably the easiest technique for limiting your search results, but it's certainly not the best one to start out with. And I'll come back to showing you how to do maybe a better job of your initial keyword search. But I want to open up one of these PDFs of the article. And because we have full text on, you're going to get a PDF for all these articles. You can open it up. And here's the article. So what can you do with this article? Well, the first thing you can do is look at it in terms of whether it meets your needs. And you can quickly, or more quickly than reading the full article, just read the abstract of the article. The abstract of the article is always at the beginning of the article. This one's in italics. Sometimes they say abstract. That's going to give you the broad overview of the article and really quickly tell you whether this is an article you really want to use for your research. Let's pretend that it is. So you found this article and you said, yes, this is perfect. I'm going to use this. There's a way that you can use this article to find other articles. And I'm going to show you 3 ways. The first one is that very often after the abstract, there'll be something called keywords. And what these are the keywords that the author has assigned to their article. Depends on what publication you want to get your article published in, but many journals ask the author to assign keywords. So if you thought this was a good article to use for your research, look for these keywords. Again, they're always after the abstract. It says keywords, and do some searching on those. There might be some other articles that turn up that you can use for your research. The second way is way down at the bottom of the article, at the end, there's going to be your bibliography. These are the references. In this case, this is in APA format as opposed to MLA. And all those are, you're going to hear a lot about this too. And it's basically the journal standards for publishing an article. And think about it. If I had a journal and I was getting manuscripts and articles from thousands of authors, I would like those all to come in the same format, not all different formats. So what has been developed are these standards. And in APA, the American Psychological Association, the bibliography is called references. And that extends to like psychology, education, sociology, all the social sciences. If you were writing an English paper, your bibliography would be called works cited. But to get back to this list, these are the references the author used in writing his article. And there's a good chance that some of these might be useful to you in your research. So check them out and do some searching of these articles. And then the third way is something I talked about at the very beginning with the author search. One of the things that happens with researchers and scholars is they get more and more focused in a particular area the longer they're in their careers. So if you were to look at this article and say, yes, it's really useful, do an author search on each of these names, because there's a very good chance they've written other articles that might be of interest to you. So that's 3 ways: the author search, keywords, and the references. That once you find that one article that is really useful to you, look at those 3 other approaches for finding other articles. Okay, let's look at the tools, which are not nearly as complex, along the right-hand side. And I'm only going to talk to you about one of them. If you put your cursor over this little one that looks like a page, it's called the Cite tool. If you click on it, you're going to get the citation for this article. And I know, or I think I know, that your class is using APA format. So if you were using this article in a paper, it reminds you that your bibliography page is called References, and then you can copy and paste that into your bibliography page. An incredibly useful little tool that can save you a lot of time. I also teach a lot for GSC, and what I tell my own students is, this is a great tool to use, but it doesn't get you off the hook in terms of you still have to look at it to make sure the format is correct. And I'll show you some tools in a little bit to make sure you can check it out to make sure the citation is correct. I'd have to say that in the Discovery Service, they're almost always correct, but every once in a while I'll hit one that's just wrong. And I can always tell if a student has just copied and pasted, because it'll be something dumb, like the name of the journal that published the article is always in italics. It won't be in italics. And that's a dead giveaway. Now, you might think that, well, so what? That's pretty, it's not a major error, and I'd have to agree with you. At the same time, I think there's more and more emphasis at GSC on making citations correct. And I have to take a step back and say that yes, if you want to be taken seriously as a scholar or even writing papers for college level work, you need to get your citations correct. So that's about all I'm going to say about that before I get myself in trouble. Okay, let's go back to the results list. Are there any questions about any of this yet? I tend to breeze through this pretty quickly. Okay, then I'm going to go back to the results list and look at that 39,000 hits we've got. And if you remember, our search was social media. You wrote to me and, wait a minute, hold on. I see we have a couple of questions. Okay, just happy they saw the citation tool. You wrote to me and you said, I'm doing a paper on social media, and I'm actually teaching a class right now on social media. So this is a relevant topic for me and my students. I might immediately say to you, well, what's social media? What do you want to know about it? And that's one of the key questions you should ask yourself before you even start looking in the library for resources, is what do I really want to know about my topic? And spend a little time, because I guarantee the more time you spend thinking about that question, the faster the actual searching for resources is going to go, and you're going to get better resources. So what I really want to know is about Facebook Okay, I'm really interested in the role that Facebook plays in bullying in middle school. So I've picked out the most important words in my thinking about my question, and I've joined them together with capital ands. And those capitals are what's known as Boolean search operators. They say, look at the concept Facebook, join it with bullying, and then join it with middle school. There are two other Boolean operators, and really I don't use them very much, but one of them is not. The other one is or, so it's and, not, and or. Not boys. So what I'm really interested in is girls and bullying in middle school. I'm not really interested in how boys use Facebook. And then I can do my search. I still got 1,000 hits. I've got my limiters on, and this is a case where I might even move it up a bit to 2012, because I want probably the most current information. And then I can start going through my search results and looking at one or another of the articles to see which one looks best to me or which of them looks best. I also need to turn United States on and English. Some of the search limiters go across searching, so you don't have to turn them back on. Some of them don't. And now we're down to 38 articles. That's a reasonable amount of articles to look at for your search. And it might be that your first go around with this, you won't find anything you want. Then you begin to play with these words and think about, well, I definitely want Facebook. Is there another word for bullying? Is there another word for middle school? Or do I want to stay with that? It might be adolescence. And not boys, maybe I want to turn that one off. Maybe that's too precise. And that's actually the process that when I help students with searching and thinking about search terms, I go through. We simply play with the language, and we might rearrange things, and we might find synonyms that we can search on. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. So any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go back then to the very beginning, a new search, because I want to do my social media search over again. And when you go back to a new search, it turns off all of the search limiters. And the reason I want to do this is I want to look at the ebooks that have to do with social media. There was a search limiter that we didn't talk about, source types. And if you open that up, you're going to find out that we have ebooks on social media. You can update it. And here are all the ebooks that we have, and we have 132,000 of them. Not all of these are only about social media. Like, I'm not sure this would be one you would be interested in, but who knows? Or social media for musicians. I'd also make sure I turned on the date slider. When you're looking at ebooks, you don't turn on peer review, because although ebooks or books in general go through a review process, they don't go through the peer-reviewed process that I described. You might want only English language books. We have a couple in Dutch, 500 and 151 in Dutch. And then you're left with the actual ebooks. Again, PDF to the full text. You don't need any special software to read our ebooks. The tools you have move to above the ebook. There's a dictionary. There's the cite tool again. So if you were citing this book in APA, there's a citation format. You could save pages. Just indicate what pages. Depending on the book, you can download it. But you have to have set up an account first, because I like to keep track of that. And the way you set up your own account is you go up to sign in. And then you can go ahead and either sign in using Google or create your own account. The thing I'll say to you about this is that it works, and it works well, but you have to write down your password and your sign-in information. It's your personal folder, and I have students every term who put a lot of stuff in their folder and then forget their password. And unfortunately, I can't get it. And EBSCO really, really doesn't like to get it. And the reason is because we have something called the privacy rights associated with library research. And this is a national sort of the Library Bill of Rights that says that nobody but you should know what you're searching. So when you ask me for help or write to me about questions, at the end of every month, I delete everybody's questions because I never want to be connected or be able to provide search information. EBSCO does the same thing. I think they do it every 24 hours. So they're not going to have your password. The other thing I'll say is once you have created your folder, make sure that when you leave the system and then you log back in, you log back into your folder, because unfortunately the system is not going to remind you. And that's the other big problem I think I see, is that students forget to sign in. They find something they like that they think they're putting in their folder. And I think this is a flaw in the system, but it doesn't say to you, hey, you're not signed into your folder. It just lets you think you've signed in, and it lets you think it's from the item is put in your folder. So these are more, they're inconveniences, and you can spend a lot of time trying to reconstruct your folder. The easiest thing is just to remember to sign in. Okay. Are there any questions about the Discovery service? Or anything you think you'd like me to go back and explain again?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Then I am going to take you back to the library homepage. Can everybody see the homepage? Just one of you needs to answer. If one of you, yeah, okay. If one of you can, you all can. Just a couple other things I wanted to make sure I mentioned to you. The first one is the Library Research Guide. If you click on this, and this is something I update every year, depending on what I'm hearing from students about what's hard versus what kind of assignments they're getting. Each of these is set up to help you with a particular part of research. So if you wanted some help with the GSC Discovery Service, if you click on this, you're going to get a lot of information about basic searching, finding
I
publications.
think it's messed up.
You're not seeing it?
No, I saw
Okay.
you go click on it and then it didn't load. Still on social media.
Okay, hold on a minute. One of the things that Moodle or Zoom doesn't seem to like is the interaction with changing pages. I run into this every once in a while. Okay, can you see it now? The research guide?
It just says meeting topic, Derek class. Doesn't say like the page.
Okay, let's see what we can do here. Okay.
I can see it now.
All right, good. For some reason, I have to close everything down and then restart it. So, back to the research guide. Under GSC Discovery Service is where you're going to see all the help documents for using the online library. The one I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, though, is research integrity. If you click on this, I'm going to hope you're seeing this page. Under citation tools. Can everybody see citation tools home?
Yes.
I can't.
Yep, okay. You saw the EBSCO citation tool, the one that will give you the APA or MLA format of the citation. Not everything you probably use for your papers is going to be in the library. So, well, how do you cite it? I have a link to something called the Citation Builder from the University of North Carolina Libraries. They had a federal grant to do this, so I recommend you use it because it's our tax dollars that paid for it. You tell it what you want to cite, what citation style you want something in. So say I wanted a journal article and I wanted it in APA, then I would fill out a form that asks for the author of the article, the title, the journal title, the volume issue, and you get all of this information when you see a journal article. You then submit it and out spits the citation for you. An incredible time saver again. The only thing is you got to check it over. This is actually the one I like using a lot because it's very accurate. Okay, let's see, what else do I want to mention? Oh, under citation tools again, I wanted to mention, you probably, do all of you know about OWL? Purdue University's online writing lab. They have an APA guide and an MLA guide, and they're really good for two reasons. They keep up with new formats, and if you think even in the time in the past 3 years or 4 years, who would have thought we'd want to use a tweet for a research paper. Well, these days, if you're studying the presidency or you're writing a paper about our current president, you might be quoting a tweet. How do you cite a tweet? Because you know, if you use it, you have to cite it. Al is going to tell you how to do that. The other thing is that I like Al because it gives you lots of examples. It will give you the rule, but it won't go on and on and on about the rule. It will instead give you examples that you can follow. So there are links to the OWL site there. And then finally, let's go back to the library homepage, because there are only two other things I want to mention. One is library systems updates. Whenever we have been extremely fortunate that both the library system and library webpage, both of these run not at GSC or UNH servers, they run from private company servers, and the systems have been very, very stable. But if one were to go down, I put up a notice. And one of the notices I put up recently had to do with GSC Library at granite.edu, which is our mailbox for students to contact me. It got migrated at UNH, who handles all of our GSC mail, and the mailbox no longer worked. So I think I've caught most of the places where you could email for help. And what's happening now is it's going right to me directly. It's not going to my library mailbox. The other thing I wanted to mention was about library workshops. Over the course of a term, I run a series of workshops on writing a research paper, doing searching. So I've run them on capstone research. I'm very willing to set one up for both your class, like Molly always has me do this for her class, or for individuals. And again, so if it were only two people working on a research paper and they wanted a APA tune-up or a basic writing a research paper, I can work around your schedule and make the workshop happen for you. So just keep that in mind. Okay, what I find usually is after this much time, you're pretty much tired of me and me talking about the library. So I'm going to just ask quickly if there are any questions, or if any of you, if you found this useful. Because one of the things I like to do is kind of improve it each time I do it. This is the first one I've done for spring term, so I'm open to suggestions here.
I don't have any questions, but I think I definitely did learn a lot, and I thought I knew the site already. So I will be reaching out to you because I'm in crit right now.
Oh, great. Yes, absolutely.
So there's some things, like I'm doing a paper on vaccinations with our pets. So I've tried to use the website, and I couldn't always figure it out to narrow it down. But now that you showed me, like, you can do specifically US and English, that definitely helps.
Okay, great, great. Anybody else?
Well, I picked up a couple things. I like the citation builder, and yeah, there was a few things that I didn't know were in there. So, no, it was good.
Okay, okay. Well, I'm not going to put the rest of you on the spot here. Just so you know how to find me, and I'm very willing to help you. In fact, I like to help students with this, so just give me a call or email me, and we'll see what we can do for you. Okay,
Right.
if that's the end, then have a good night, and what I'll do is I'll give the recording to Molly, and she can put it up in your site. Okay, have a good evening.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.